Super duper. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to be here. I'm so grateful for the invite, and I hope you've had some wonderful sessions so far. I am absolutely sure that you have. Thank you so much for joining me for this one. My name is Nicola Salmon, and I am a fat positive fertility coach. So what that means is that I support folks who are in bigger bodies throughout fertility and pregnancy. And the reason that is so important is because folks in bigger bodies often come up with different issues and problems throughout trying to get pregnant and then going on through pregnancy. I'm the author of a book called Fat and Fertile, How to Get Pregnant in a Bigger Body. And a lot of my work revolves around activism. So it revolves around using the knowledge that I've gained and my experience to create change in the systems that we have in our healthcare that stop fat folks from accessing care so that you don't need me anymore, basically. I want to create change so that all folks of all bodies, regardless of whether that's bigger bodies, black bodies, trans bodies, queer bodies, all bodies are able to access the care they need in order to get pregnant. So I'm going to share a couple of ideas around what fat positive fertility means for me. So it means that it's the idea that fat people should be able to access healthcare regardless of their BMI. So that includes tests to see what's going on. That includes access to treatments such as ovulation induction, IVF, IUI, all of the treatments. I think everybody should have equal access to those types of treatments. I believe that fat folks should be treated with respect and patient-centered care that honors their lived experience. And what I mean by that is that every person that walks through the door of their healthcare professional should be provided with the same support, love, and respect in order to grow their family. And finally, you should be able to make your own decisions around your healthcare, which means that you should be able to choose whether or not you decide to lose weight or diet if you decide to do that. And for me, a lot of my work revolves around the idea that we don't do this. So we don't lose weight and we don't have to diet in order to access fertility care and support. And I'm going to explain a little why that is and why I believe that that's a really important piece of the puzzle. So I want to start by making some diving into some of the key assumptions that folks make around fat people. And if you're in a bigger body, I am sure that you have come up against some of these assumptions before. So a lot of healthcare professionals believe that fat folks are unhealthy, that fat people don't exercise, that fat folks eat junk foods, sugary foods, and other foods that are labeled as quote unquote bad foods. They also believe that losing weight and dieting will improve fertility, and that any health issues that fat folks face are because they are fat, and that losing weight will be the problem to those answers. And they also believe that fat folks have a higher risk of complications, and that's throughout tests, treatments, and pregnancy. So there's all of these assumptions that impact how fat folks receive care throughout their fertility experience. So I want to kind of look at some of these assumptions and really kind of dig into what they might mean and why I don't think they're as simple as they may first appear. I've popped some references in these if you want to go and explore, if you're very research minded and want to know more about the research. I've included some links, which hopefully you'll get the slides so you can see these, but I really want to explain a little bit about what they mean. So there's this big assumption that being fat is unhealthy. And actually, when we look at the research, what we see is that there are a similar percentage of people in every single BMI category that have quote unquote unhealthy lifestyles. And there are a similar percentage of people in all BMI categories that have really active and healthy lifestyles. So what that means is that when you start to put people into categories based on what their body size is, there's actually a similar percentage of people who don't do much exercise and eat the quote unquote unhealthy foods, but there's the same percentage of people in higher BMI categories that have super active lifestyles, which means that we can't really decide on somebody's lifestyle based on what they look like, which often happens for fat people. There's also a lot of research around the fact that when people have health promoting behaviors, so things that you can control, such as moving your body, drinking more water, getting better sleep, eating more fruit and vegetables, that they have a better health status. And this is regardless of their BMI. So their weight could go up, go down, or stay the same. And actually, if you are engaging in those health promoting behaviors, so the things that you can control, then your health markers go up. So you have lower blood pressure, you have lower kind of blood sugar levels, and all these other indicators that we can actually measure to do with health. And we also know that health is impacted by so much more than the food that you're eating and the way that you're moving your body. And I really want to show you a little example of what I mean by that. So this is an image from the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control in the US. And what it shows is that when you look at health from a big perspective, so kind of over a whole population of people, actually health behaviors, so the things like what we eat, what we drink, how we move, when we sleep, our stress levels, is actually one small piece of the pie. So it's about 20%. And the other bits are taken up by the medical care that we get access to, our genes and biology. And actually, you know, most of the pie, so over 50%, is things like the class you're born into, where you're born, and all of these other things, external environment things that actually we really have no control over. So it's really helpful to kind of zoom out about what we think about health, and actually health behaviors is only a really, really small piece of the puzzle. So the next big myth that I want to combat today is that dieting will improve fertility. This is something that is a stumbling block for most folks, because often when they go and see their healthcare professional, they'll be told, well, if you come back when you've lost X amount of pounds, then we'll help you. And that is such unhelpful advice for so many people. A, because they've probably already tried it. The majority of folks will have often tried to make their body smaller. And we are just assuming that weight loss and dieting will have a positive impact on our health and fertility, but actually there is not the evidence to support that. What the evidence shows is that weight loss is not a risk-free thing that you can just do and there's no risks associated with it. We know that 90 to 95% of folks who go on a diet will go on to regain that weight, and often more over a long term. So often with the majority of weight loss research, it's done over a super small length of time. So 1 to 2 years is often the max that they will follow up folks over. But when you start to look at kind of long term, so 5 years and beyond, the majority of folks will have gone on to regain that weight plus more. And actually it can lead to binge eating, it can lead to disordered eating, it can lead to eating disorders, and it's really not risk-free. And what some other research has shown is that low-calorie diets have been shown to be really harmful during the preconception phase. So if your doctor said to you, okay, I need you to go away and lose weight, then you're going to want to do that as fast as possible, because we know that time has an impact on fertility. But what that means is that you're going to choose these dieting strategies that can actually be harmful for the preconception phase when you want to get pregnant. So it just doesn't make any sense. It makes absolutely no sense that doctors are suggesting these things when the evidence is that it will never be long term, that folks, you know, will be engaging in disordered eating, which can have problems for mental health and, you know, go on to lead to all kinds of other conditions. And actually, we know that, you know, going on things like low-calorie diets can have a really negative impact during the preconception phase. So the final thing that is often assumed is that fat people have higher risks. So this is higher risks in treatments, higher risks in pregnancy. And actually what the research shows is that, yes, sometimes folks have a higher chance of these things happening, but it really is not black and white. So some of the research shows that, but a lot of the research shows that actually there is no association. And the big thing that this research does not take into account is two key factors which most fat people experience. So the first is yo-yo dieting, or something called in the research weight cycling, where your weight goes up and down over a period of time because of going on a diet, losing some weight, coming off the diet, regaining the weight, then going back on a diet. And it's kind of this up and down of like a roller coaster. And we know that this up and down in our weight impacts it increases chronic inflammation, it impacts our stress hormones, and we know that these things impact hormone levels and can have all kinds of other kind of ripple effects from that. And the second one is something called weight stigma, which is this idea that the way that fat people are treated in our healthcare system impacts their health. And the reason that this happens is because we're treated differently. So when you go and see your doctor, they might say, okay, come back in 6 months when you've lost X kilograms. And what's actually happening is that that's delaying any possible testing, any possible treatments, and that delay then increases the risk of things happening. And what it also increases is this shame and this feeling of judgment in our bodies, which is another stressor for us in our bodies. And it also means that we'll be less likely to go and see that doctor because we know that that experience has been detrimental to our mental health. So we'll think, oh, well, I know that I had a negative experience with that doctor and he made me feel really crap about myself. So actually, I'm going to put that off as long as I can. It's a self-protective mechanism, so you don't have to go through that experience again. And it's really, really harmful for people's health. So none of the research looks into these two key components that have a really detrimental impact on our physical and our mental health, which I think can account for a lot of the risk we see for folks in bigger bodies. So this is the way that I work with people, because like I said earlier on, like fat people need a different way of being able to access fertility support, because we need to find ways of accessing healthcare that isn't stigmatizing, that doesn't make us feel crap about our bodies and doesn't make us feel ashamed or judged. So the way that I work with folks is that we formulate a plan, we create a plan that looks at where we are now with our health, where we want to be. Health is not a uniform picture. We're not all ever going to have the same health. You know, folks have chronic illnesses, chronic health conditions, and our health is never going to look the same. So it's about finding a plan that doesn't focus on diet and weight loss, but focuses on those health promoting behaviors that are going to support us in nourishing our bodies and feeling good about ourselves, having more energy, and those really important things that are going to help us to take us to where we want to be in terms of our health. Then another key part of this is advocacy, because advocacy is what we need, those skills we really need in order to get the care we need sometimes. I know somebody mentioned earlier, the UK only gives treatment if you've got a BMI of 30 or less. So it's these barriers, these extra barriers that we're having to come against that is impacting our access to care. So it's about helping folks learn how to advocate and practice those advocacy skills so that we can push to get access to the care that we need, push to get those tests and treatments. And this is not work we should have to do. We should have access to healthcare, but unfortunately, given the systems that we have at the moment, it's something that we need to learn to do. The next part is all about trust. So being in a fat body, going through fertility stuff is like a double layer of messages telling you that you can't trust your body, that your body is not good enough. So it's about really relearning that your body is absolutely capable of getting pregnant and having a healthy pregnancy, and it is absolutely capable of supporting you through that. So it's about relearning to trust your body, and also really rebuilding that trust around food as well, because for so many folks, you know, that up and down of dieting for most of our lives leads to rules around food and different things that, you know, we have to feel like we have to follow around food. So it's about rebuilding that trust. And then the final piece of the puzzle is about positive mindset. So this isn't like only positive vibes, like this isn't kind of like toxic positivity. It's really about looking at how our beliefs are impacting our day-to-day choices. And if you've lived in this culture for your whole life where you've been told that your body is too big and you need to make it smaller, then you've likely absorbed a whole lifetime's worth of messages that says your body won't be able to get pregnant, that you're too fat to get pregnant, that you are not deserving of care and support. So it's about retraining those beliefs so that you start to make decisions based on the beliefs that you can get pregnant and that you are capable of getting pregnant and having a healthy pregnancy, and you absolutely deserve the support that you need in order to access that care. So here are a couple of ideas of ways that I suggest to folks to start navigating this experience in a bigger body. So the first, as we mentioned, is around health promoting behaviors. So weight is non-modifiable. And what that means is that you cannot say, I'm going to eat X, Y, Z, move my body in X, Y, Z, and my weight is going to be this. Like, we cannot control. There are over 100 different factors that impact and control our weight at any one time. So what we can focus on, though, is these health promoting behaviors, which are things like eating more veg, drinking more water, moving your body in a way that feels good, getting more sleep, looking at ways you can manage your anxiety, your depression, your stress levels. All those things can be really, really great ways that you can support your fertility. The second is around advocacy. So learning the skills of advocacy can really help you influence the care that you receive from healthcare professionals. And depending on where you are, I know we've mentioned in the UK, there are strict rules around this, but, you know, there are ways that we can start to change the system. So there are ways that we can use the research that we have to change the systems and advocate for the care that we need. The third is around honouring our lived experience. So often we get told that, you know, we can't trust our bodies, that we can't trust our hunger cues, that our bodies are obviously, you know, that we're out of touch with them. And if we were able to just listen to our bodies, we'd be able to be thinner. But actually, you can trust your body. You are the expert of your own experience. And it's really helpful to start to get curious about what that means and to really think about ways that you can explore the trust in your body. And then the final thing I recommend to folks is to find a safe space to talk about this stuff. Often if you're in a bigger body, you don't feel that you can share this, even with other people who are going through fertility stuff, because of that fear of being judged or shamed and people telling you that you need to lose weight, or if you could go on this one diet, then everything would be fixed. So if you can find a place where you can talk about your mental health and not feel judged or shamed, that can be really, really beneficial. So I'm just going to touch a little bit on PCOS because so often for folks in higher weight bodies, PCOS can impact their care and it can kind of play a role in a crossover. For me personally, I have PCOS. I was diagnosed 20 years ago with it, so it's really impacted my journey with my own body, and I have a lot of clients who have PCOS. So the first thing I always ask people is, do you have PCOS? And do you really have PCOS? Because for folks in bigger bodies, we can be over-diagnosed with PCOS, or people will just assume that we have PCOS based on the size of our bodies. So there are specific diagnostic criteria, and you need 2 out of 3 of these. So you need to have irregular cycles and or high levels of androgens, such as testosterone, and or cysts on your ovaries. And you need 2 of those 3 things in order to be diagnosed with PCOS. The next thing I want you to really know is that you do not need to lose weight or diet to cure your PCOS. You can't cure PCOS. It is not really like a disease. It's a syndrome, which means it's a collection of symptoms, and it's still really poorly understood. But there are things that you can do to support your PCOS. That doesn't mean you have to lose weight or cure it. And weight gain doesn't cause it. You don't have PCOS just because you are fat. It's something, weight gain can be associated with PCOS, but it's one of the symptoms. It's not something that causes it. So here are some of the ideas of really great ways to manage PCOS for folks that don't involve weight loss. So there's a great supplement called inositol, which I definitely recommend you have a look at the research around. It's got some really good research around it. Rest is so good for PCOS. It's really good to make sure you're getting good quality sleep and getting like time in your day when you need to rest. Pairing foods. So what I mean by this is, if you're having carbs, which you absolutely should do, your brain needs carbs, but pair it with a protein, pair it with a fat, because when you pair foods together, it can be really, really, really helpful. And then finally, moving your body in a way that feels good. Strength training in particular has got some really good research outcomes for folks with PCOS. And it really helped me as well regulate my menstrual cycle specifically. And it's really, really amazing to start lifting heavy weights and just, get an idea of how powerful your body can be. And finally, I wanted to touch a little bit on how I use Mira with my clients, because I found it's really, really beneficial and in a really unique way for fat people. Often fat folks struggle with ovulation predictor kits, or OPKs, because they never get that positive hit. And what Mira does is it provides that baseline for LH so that you can see a relative increase that might not register with an OPK. And I tried it with my PCOS, with my super irregular cycles, and it was just amazing to finally see that result, and that actually my body is working and I can start to trust it because I have evidence that I can trust it. And you can build up data about your hormones that you might not otherwise be able to access if you were denied care based on your body size. So with the new one that you can use the estrogen and the progesterone, like if you're not able to access care in a bigger body, this is a really great way where you can build up some data about what your hormones in your body is doing whilst you are navigating the system. And then finally, it's really great to be able to time that conception with irregular periods. So for folks with PCOS, if you've got irregular periods, getting that fertile window can be so frustrating, especially if, like me, you've got like 100+ day cycles where you've just got no flipping idea where you are. So being able to see that LH rise before ovulation is so helpful. So that's just a couple of ways how, Mira really, really helps me navigate this with my clients, because we can look at the data, see what's going on, even if they don't have access to their doctors, through tests that way. So I hope that's been a little bit helpful. I hope that you've got some different information, some different ideas of ways that you can support yourself in a bigger body without any stigma or judgment or shame. I'm here if you have absolutely any questions, and here's my email address. So you are so welcome to reach out and ask me anything.